So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining today's session on time. I'm just trying to wait for the 2 minutes, so we begin exactly at 5 minutes first for the people in the queue that is in the admission room. And as I do that, I'm going to request all of us, if you're mute, kindly just keep your mic mute so that we can be able to move on the same pace without interruption. And I just want to confirm whether all my panelists are in, but I'm not sure whether I've given you all the rights that you need right now. Mary, maybe you can do that. Great. Mathangani Muya, I've not been able to spot you. Are you there?
Hear me?
Yes, I think Mary has spotted you right there. You have all the rights you need right now. Confirm, Mathangani?
Yes, I'm in.
Okay, great. Yes, I am sure I've spotted the rest. So I guess we are ready to move in. The rest we just find us going, because time waits for nobody. And we are here today because of some specific reasons that actually also ties in time and how we maintain our time and we keep our time. So before I move on, before I introduce myself and the team that we are on board here to help us actually crack this topic, I want just to give you some heads up, because sometimes the Zoom capacity gets overfilled as we move towards 10, 20 minutes. So in case your colleagues are saying or complaining that it is already filled, please go or direct them to the Facebook, because it's already live in the Facebook page for Blue Concepts Africa. Mary, if you hear me calling Mary so much often, is the one helping out here from our office. And I've seen talent, Richard Magoma. Good morning, Richard. Glad to see you there. I know sometimes you come handy in supporting such things, right? Yeah, so in case you see people asking a lot, please just drop it on the Facebook page. I mean, the link of the Facebook page in the chat, so everybody can be able to move with us. So good morning, welcome to today's session. Today we dive into this question about executive presence. I know some quarters call it, leadership presence. It is something that is really a bit hard to define, as just as the schools of thought of leadership also have many ways of defining leadership, we know that. But you will spot it when you see it, for sure, no doubt. You will say this is presence. This is it. So, is this Evans? Oh, Prof, you're in. Welcome. Good to see you. So before I move on, allow me to introduce my panel, because I've got very able, experienced, great panelists today who will give us all the perspectives that we need to understand, and we need to know, and practically need to, have, a glimpse of what exactly does this thing called executive presence play out in our lives, in the way we work, in our places, even in some other places that we are called to show up. Does it enable us? Do we have it? And if we don't have it, what do we do? And as I move to introducing my panelists, allow me just to share something here so that everybody can be able to follow through. And I'll move with no kind of order, so that we can move a little bit faster. I think this is what was playing around. So let me just move to that kind of a slide there. Great. So there we have it. And to kick us off in the introduction session, we start with one amazing lady. So if you're able to see my screen, just give me a yes in the chat. Just give me a yes in the chat if you're able to see my screen. Or you can actually tell me yes through your mic, so I can move.
Yes, I can see your screen.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. Good morning. So, like you can see on the screen is Frida Owinga, and Frida Owinga is somebody Drusilla Mokaya, thanks for muting. It's somebody, if I attempt actually to introduce her, my goodness, I can bet that I will barely scratch her profile. And why do I say this? Because I know Freedom. I know she calls herself, or we call us, we call her in many platforms, the sandpaper. You know what a sandpaper does? Probably you'll get to know by the time we finish this session. So I want to call and invite Frida Owinga, because I don't want to actually dare introduce her and introduce herself. Tell us a bit about herself just in 1 or less minutes. Welcome, Madam Frida, if you can hear me coming.
So, my 1 minute is over. Good morning, everyone. This is great to be here with so many of you. Oh my God, you're almost 100 on a weekend. These people are serious about transcending, Madam Damaris. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Frida Owinga. And yes, they call me the sandpaper. I don't know why. You can ask the people who named me that. I help people turn their passion into profit. And profit is the ability to get more than what you put in. One of the things I hear people tell me all the time is, I went to this place or I went to the other place, and I'm so happy I got my money back. No, you are not created to get your money back. You're created to get your money back and some more. And in the process, I give them some feedback, which I think they don't like, so they have learned to call me the sandpaper. I'm here. I'll be speaking with a lot of love and respect. If you want to change from one form to another form, you better put your listening ears on and remove your chips from the shoulder, because it might hurt a little, but I'm here out of love and respect for Damaris and all of you to get better and shine brighter. Back to you, Madam Damaris. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Frida. We are so honored to have you today. We can't wait to feel the sandpaper, of course. I can welcome each and everyone, because you will definitely have a feel of it by the time we get done with this. Oh, so welcome so much to today's session, Madam Frida. And I'll move to the next speaker today, or panelist. And I know most of you coming from the profession of human resource definitely most likely know Mathangani Muya, because he is a popular one in this space of human resource. We were lucky to have him in the second part of the series of April, where we are transcending just knowledge to be able to do and do better. So welcome, Mathangani Muya. You can say something about yourself as we move.
Thank you, Damaris. It's my great pleasure to be part of this webinar today, and it's a great pleasure to see a lot of attendants. They are almost crossing the 100 mark, and I hope they'll be able to move to the next, to Facebook. Briefly, as you have seen, my name is Mathangani Moya. We work almost along the same lines with Frida, but mine on a different thing. As she turns passions into profits, I try to help those people who feel stuck as they're trying to achieve their career successes or their personal success. That's what I do. I am a certified coach. I am also a HR strategist. So anything to do with HR, whether it's from the corporate level, at an individual level, and also developing the skills that one needs actually to be able to transit into leadership or overcome any stumbling blocks that might be on the way. But that is I do. And that's a great passion and my joy when I see people coming out and say, I have seen it in a different way. And I'm respect towards my success, whether at the personal level or professional level. That is me. Anything, career transitions, leadership development, here I am. Impactful presence, here I am. And I hope by the time we leave today, you shall be able to take that one step you have been fearing on Monday and start your journey to success, whatever you define it to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mathangani. Awesome. You come handy all the time, especially in helping professionals shape up in many areas that are very critical. Matangani is an HR award winner in mentorship, a great honor, of course, accorded by the Institute of Human Resource Management. And we are really honored to have you on board. So thank you very much. I want to move to the next speaker of today, and it's none other than, this one I have to say it precisely well because he is my professor in a course that I'm so passionate about. And he is somebody who comes so much handy when it comes to matters of leadership and management. He's taught me a lot about leadership and leadership ethics and how to do organizational development in a great deal. So allow me to bring on board none other than Professor Scott Bellows. And because I don't want to lose marks, let me allow him to introduce himself. Welcome, Scott.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm so impressed that there's 100 of us on a Saturday morning after a holiday. I think we all deserve like a free breakfast delivery or something. So my name is Scott, and I'm on faculty with the United States International University of Africa, USIU Africa. And great to be here. But before getting into academia, I was frustrated because I was a CEO of several different banks. I was an NGO director, and I just remember being so frustrated with the lack of knowledge in all my graduate studies up till that point. I had 2 master's degrees at that point, and I still didn't know. I felt like I didn't know enough science about how to be a leader and how to motivate our human resources. So I took time off and went and did a PhD in this, and then came back and really felt like it was my life's mission to try to stand at the intersection between what science knows and what businesses don't know but should know about what science knows about leadership and human resources. So that's really, I think, the role and the kind of the passion of my life here. Yeah, so that's about me. And if you read the Business Daily on Wednesdays, you'll see my articles where I tend to talk about these topics often. So if you ever have any topic ideas you want from me, send me an email. I'll put my email and my contacts here in the Zoom chat. So that's me. My name is Scott.
Thank you very much, Scott. Like I said, is got experience. Is just saying he's written some articles on the dailies actually, and the Business Daily as well. But I can tell you he's gone, I think 10 years actually gracing that newspaper with so amazing content. We celebrate you, Prof, for that. And we are so honored to have you today here to help us discuss this session and understand what exactly is executive presence. So without further ado, let me just introduce myself. Christine Omondi. Yes, Mary, maybe you could help with muting those people as we proceed. Okay. So I just want to move on, probably for those who are joining this series for the first time, and introduce myself, because I don't want to assume all of us actually get to know the lady who is speaking. My name is Damaris Ndungwa. And Damaris Ndungwa, I say in the background, I am a human resource professional because that's where my career started. But I also want to say that I've spent over 14 years plus in learning and development, and a lot in organization development per se. I have had the honor of 14 years of helping institutions and leaders to be able to, find solutions around the challenges that they have, so that they can be able to figure out and, achieve the things that they want to achieve in terms of goals and objectives of the organizations. So I've had the honor of working with both private sector and public sector, a lot in multinationals beyond East Africa, and across the globe in many, spotlighted areas in the many continents that we have. I currently work with Blue Concepts Africa as a lead OD and learning in that space, and I'm honored to be the one leading this series of April, where we are having 5 sessions, each week 1 session, just to try to transcend just knowledge to be able to do, because it is one of the challenges we have within organizations, within spaces, that we know things, but when it comes to actually practically putting them place, we experience some challenges. So I'm happy to be here. I'm joined by, I think, two of my colleagues, Mary Jenga, who is helping me to manage this platform. And I know I have George Juma, who is, I haven't spotted, but I'm sure you're in here just in case technology decides to pull a first one on me. And all those, George is an expert in culture transformation like myself, because that's where my passion is, being able to help institutions build high performance cultures. Something I've done for so many CEOs in this country, in East Africa, Uganda, Tanzania, and currently in South Sudan. So let's get into this. And just to help us demystify executive presence, because in my encounter with this statement, first of all, I was like, wow, this sounds like you just entered in a room and everybody has just nodded and think you're worth listening. How do we manage to do that? Or somebody stood up and all of a sudden, yes, we are keenly and ready, anticipating something that we think is, of course, of value from that person. How do people get to that level? Of course, there are many ways of defining, but let's get a good one from Mathangani Muya. Muya, what exactly is executive presence?
I'll try to summarize that because we're going to spend the next 1 hour and maybe 30 minutes discussing more details. But in brief, executive presence is actually how you yourself, you exude confidence in terms of the leadership style that you have. Because as an executive, you're supposed to be somebody who makes things happen, who actually deals with operations, getting results. So when we talk about executive presence, it's actually your ability to towards inspiring people, either to perform, give them confidence, provide them with guidance. It is how you conduct yourself. How is your personal conduct? How is your professional conduct? It's also about your behaviors. Because when we deal with people, a lot is determined by how we behave towards them. Do we inspire confidence in them? Do we inspire attraction? Do we communicate well? Do we demonstrate that we have the right competencies to get them to able to listen, to digest what we have said, to understand what are our professional values? What is the professional values that we exude from ourselves? This is what we talk about your executive presence. Are you able to communicate articulately, provide reports, suggest ideas? How do you do that? This is why we notice that some people are very good at presenting something and we just see it in a different perspective and you wonder, how did they do that? That in itself is executive presence. And you can start thinking through about people you admire, how they conduct themselves in meetings, or when you come across them, or when you come to introduce themselves, and you just feel them. Just look, what is that quality that you saw in them? That will guide you. If that's what you aspire to be, then start following that. So we are going to share a lot of those factors and components about executive as we move, but that briefly is what you call executive presence.
Thank you very much, Muya. I think it's a conscious effort that actually we need to move consciously or very conscious about, or become very conscious about when we are actually doing something, that we need to manifest that kind, or exude that kind of presence. And I want to hear from let me bring in the lady, Frida, because you've shared something somewhere on a platform that caught me today, and you went like, it actually cost me a job, executive presence. Please drop it, Frida. How do we get to that level?
Thank you very much, Damaris. When I think of executive presence, I think of 3 words. One, I think of capability, confidence, and credibility. And the good news is that all these things can be cultivated. I like when you say that we need to be intentional. And I lived in the US, and I've lived abroad, and I've lived at home. In the US, my first job before I went to the US, I was a general manager. I was a general manager of an organization that was we're making more than $2 million a year. And that was in the 80s. So you can figure out how much that money was. And we had the leading tours and travel company that was serving Japanese. I was doing international trade. So when I went to the US, I was 32 years old and full of myself. I was like, I've got this. I got this, all right? I'm making money in Kenya. I can go make money abroad. So I remember the first job I got, I took this job because I needed a job, all right? And so it was a receptionist job, all right? So when I went for the interview, I was sure I would get it. It was a receptionist job for a US company. And when I got back to the agency, they told me that I did get the job. And I was like, what do you mean? A receptionist job? Do you know who I am? Do you know how much money I've been making in Kenya? Just because it's America, you think you can treat me how you want, da, da, da. But after I calmed down, I asked the lady, what did I do wrong? And she said something that changed my life forever and has helped me to get to where I am today. This lady said that the person who interviewed me said that I had a weak handshake. I did not look like I could do the things that I said I was doing. And what were those things? That I was leading the tours and travel company. I was doing international trade across sectors and geographies. So that woke me up. So I became aware and I swallowed my pride and asked her, what do I need to do? And she trained me. She trained me on how to have a strong handshake. She trained me on how to dress and show up like an executive. I kid you not, Damaris, I got that job. It was a receptionist job. In less than 30 days, I was promoted to operations assistant. I was working with the operations manager, onboarding new clients. Because what we were doing is the company was supporting organizations to do their payrolls. So we'd bring them on board, and then it was really an HR company. Because what we were doing was we take care of your payroll, we take care of your leave, we take care of your staff. We are an outsourced payroll company. We're called US Personnel. And that has changed my life. So I've become more conscious how I show up. I've become more conscious about the questions I ask. One thing, and I give it back to you, that I've become really conscious about is that it is more important to be effective than to be right. Because I was right. I had made money. I had worked across sectors and geographies. However, I was not palatable to the American people. So I had to change to be effective. And here I am today, by God's grace. I'm the first African president of Organization of Women in International Trade, which is based in Washington and has over 20 chapters across the world. Thank you.
Wow, I like that. Even as you speak, I just want to listen more. Exactly. Executive presence, their freedom. And I think that's quite a wow. I would say that. So ladies and gentlemen, don't feel shy to appreciate when these things are said in this platform. There are so numerous emojis you can actually make use of. So thanks very much for that perspective. It is better to be effective than just right. We are learning all the time. So let's hear from Scott Bellows. Scott Bellows told me something I've never forgotten about the trait theory in leadership. And how traits, we use traits actually to sort of, categorize and, think who is a leader and who is not. Bellows, please come in. What's executive presence?
Sure. Excuse me. So if you attend perhaps a training, there's lots of people who have theories about what is needed to be a leader, what can get people to follow you. Right? I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of different traits. You have to be happy, you have to be, ambitious, all these adjectives to describe a leader. So it's almost like you go into, a typical training and you get dumped with a bottle, like a huge bucket of water gets thrown on you. You got to do this and this and this and this and this. And it's kind of overwhelming. Right. So research shows that after almost all leadership trainings, there is no change in the leadership behavior of the attendees before the training starts and after the training ends. And the reason behind that is people are thrown with too many things to do. So what scientists have done, and that's why Damaris and these Blue Concept team, right, take a scientific approach, and of course, here at USIU Africa, we of course endorse this, right, is all these different, discussions, all these different traits, right? What does science say are the most important? So you can cut through all of the noise and spend your time as a leader in which traits are going to give you the biggest presence, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest research that came out of these famous researchers, Kozus and Postner, and then has been validated by thousands of research studies, right?
Mm-hmm.
There are 4 traits, okay? And if you can portray these 4 traits, right, and how you do it, we can discuss that for quite a long time, right? But the 4 traits that you need to portray to have leadership presence, okay? Number one is inspiring. Okay, you have to
and before we come to that, because I know everybody is holding their pen tight just to get what is it that they need to do for them to exude that leadership presence. I wanted to pick on something that you said within your introductory part, because sometimes we think we do have it, and I think Frida has stated, you think you have all things collected, you think you actually have what it takes. So if for example, myself, Damaris, how can I tell whether I actually have it or I don't? What are the clues that I should be looking at that tell me, oh, I have it at least to this degree, or I actually don't have, Scott?
Right. Now, sadly, there's a large disconnect between leaders' self-awareness and how others actually perceive them. Right. And sometimes people have, sorry, let me mute someone who's making accidental
Yes, let me just look at
there we go, done.
that.
All right. So sometimes people, right, have, lower self-esteem than what other people see them. Sometimes people have overconfidence and confidence in the wrong ways. Okay. So what we do when we try to really start coaching a leader is having them do quite a number of personality assessments, team role assessments, right? Perception surveys of the people they work with, which is very different than a 360-degree evaluation. Not that, right? But people's perceptions about that individual's trust, the organizational fairness that person represents, all these, whether they can listen to colleagues and upward voice. There's lots of different scientific aspects to it, right? So it's making sure that the person's own self-awareness matches their actual persona and the actual brand that they're portraying. And a lot of times people are not aware. So that, I think that's the first part of it. And then if we get into the traits, Damaris, it's like what Frida said, with this inspiring, the first of the 4 traits that leaders must portray, there's a huge cultural dimension to the first one, inspiration. You have to be inspiring. And what is inspiring here in Kenya is very different than what's inspiring in the Middle East, what's inspiring in Asia, Europe, America, wherever, right? So what Frida found going to the US, what worked in Kenya did not work in America. So it's understanding, right, that cultural side of inspiration. Okay, guess what? According to surveys, guess what is the biggest determinant of, cultural inspiration in Kenya? What do we think, according to surveys? Very different than the rest of the world. What do we think it was in Kenya? Anyone want to type some ideas into the Zoom chat?
Maybe you may pick the question again so everybody is on the same page.
Right. What Frida says, success. Yes, success breeds success, right? But there's something deeper. There's something deeper that in Kenya makes us want to follow someone in terms of inspiration, right? Anthony says care. Well, care, Anthony, that's a good one. Care is a big component to people trusting each other, but that's really on more of an interpersonal basis, not in a leadership basis. Fame. Yeah, we love fame in Kenya, right? Eloquence, humanity, charisma. Charisma, Frida, you're right. Charisma is part of it. But what drives charisma? Because charisma drives inspiration. Confidence. Yeah, confidence we can get into. Absolutely. Confidence is something, confidence is a huge thing, and we can get into it. Your tone of voice, your body posture has more to say about your leadership than actually your words. Perceived wealth, especially for politicians, right? But the biggest one right? And a lot of what you say is very important. And we're talking about inspiration only, right? But humor, the ability to give public talks and discuss with people, right? And in these discussions and in public speaking, the ability to infuse humor, right, in Kenya gets people, inspired and wanting to follow you. Now, it's not the only thing. There are, there's three other aspects, but inspiration is the first, and the biggest driving aspect of that, is charisma, and charisma is fueled by humor, which is interesting because in other parts of the world, like in the UK, a lot of it is the ability to debate and respond quickly to questions. And we've all seen those prime minister's questions on television, right? But in America, they don't value that at all, right? They value this stoic presence, looking off into the distance. And, oh my God, it's very different. Okay, in Asia, it's this Renaissance approach. Like I had dinner with the Japanese ambassador 3 nights ago, and it was I can't remember how many nights ago. Anyway, I'm getting old. Anyway, but that this Renaissance aspect, of being well-rounded and all the doing poetry and learning languages, and the people knowing that's so inspiring to them. In Kenya, we don't care about that. No. Our ability in Kenya, we rate very highly on the humor index, right? And we like to laugh all day, but still get work done. Okay, so that's a big part of being inspiring. And it's unique to Kenya, and it's wonderful. So number two, number one was inspiring. So I'll just type it in here, just a second. Number one is inspiring. Okay, number two, okay, is honesty. Okay, people need to believe that you're honest. Now, sadly, you can fool people with your honesty. Okay, but people need to believe that you're honest in order to follow you. And I don't know if you want me to get into some of these physical traits and unconscious bias, Damaris, or not, but people are easily fooled by your physical traits. Okay, and it's kind of sad. So if you're a gentleman, right, and if you have a more round face, and if your cheeks are wider apart, like me, basically, if you look like me, all right, then people will trust you less. They will think you are less honest, which is really unfortunate. It's has to do with evolutionary psychology that, we could talk about it for hours. But if you have a longer face and your cheeks are narrow, I don't mean the skin part, I mean the cheekbones. And if they're more narrow, then people are going to believe that you're honest. It's very strange. It's well-rooted in science. So, and that's why in America, they know this. And for these brand ambassadors, go online and Google in the UK or the US, Google the brand ambassadors for different big companies, right? You're going to notice this. They always put people with longer faces and narrower cheeks because they know the science behind it, sadly. Okay. And we are evolutionarily programmed to believe people with longer faces and narrower cheeks. Now, of course, there's a reason for that. It's very strange. Okay. At the same point, right, in fetal development. So when when babies were, you're being made in your mother's womb. Okay. Now, when you're being made in your mother's womb, it's not like the mother's body makes your feet and then makes your legs and then makes your thighs and then makes your pelvis. It doesn't go linearly like that. It's kind of many things get formed and developed at the same time. So at the same time that your cheeks and facial structure are being formed is the same time where the area of the brain, okay, that developed, long-term strategy and so forth is being formed as well. So at that point in your brain, at that point in development, if your mother's body puts more testosterone into the womb, then that part of the brain is going to develop to be more strategic, right? Whereas then, and at the same point, that extra testosterone is going to push the cheeks wider, right? So it's going to push the cheeks wider, which is going to affect how you look. It's going to affect your face, okay? Which is so bizarre, right? But our subconscious brains are aware of this. We have this unconscious bias. Our subconscious brain knows this. Okay, and it's actually true. Men who have, and this doesn't work for women. There's many of these type of things, but this particular one only works for men. I'm using it as an example. So men with wider cheeks tend to lie more often. Not that they're trying to be evil, right? Now, I know all you women, you're going to go home to your husband and say, let me look at your cheeks. I know about you now. Okay, but on average, the average person lies 10 times per day. There's lots of different research studies on this, how often people lie. It's all, very, very strange, right? And it's not like people lie. A lot of times people don't lie to be evil, right? They lie, like someone asks, do you like this shirt? Right? And people, oh, yes, you look great. Even if the shirt is terrible, they're going to try to make you, look, some of you are putting some fun comments in here. Yeah, poor men with wide cheeks. That's me, Faith. Like, oh my God, this makes my life terrible. I wish this research never came out. All right, but anyway, yeah. So, okay, so I kind of lost my train of thought there for a second. Anyway, so
actually, I wanted to ask you, listening to
Yeah,
you,
sure.
Scott. Is it? Are you trying to say some of these aspects can actually be, born rather than you can actually develop or learn them? Because it doesn't sound like it's a bias. It's actually like it's a trait.
Right. There are these 4 traits. Okay, I'll just say them. So inspiration, being inspiring, honesty, right? Being forward-looking or visionary, right? And then the last one is competency. Okay, so those are the 4 big traits. So if you can portray these in your leadership, right, then over 90% of people's psychology, right, is going to be affected. Right. So why spend time on something that's only going to have a 0.001% chance of impacting people's perception about your leadership? You would rather spend time on, the big 4 that take over 90%. Right, that take up over 90% of people's mental space in terms of whether they want to follow you or not. Right. So instead of throwing a bucket of cold water on everyone and expecting everyone to, learn too many things, right? The big 4, if you can narrow it down to the big 4. So we're kind of having fun with number 2, the honesty perspective, right? Because number 1 has a cultural component, the inspiring, just like Frida was talking about. Right. And then number 2, the whole honesty thing. Yes, you have to portray that you're honest, but whether people believe you or not, there's some factors that play a role. Right. And sadly, it's the wide cheek, the wide cheek thing is one of them. So on average, people lie, 10 times per day, but men with wider cheeks lie on average. Now, this one's controversial, but lie on average maybe 12 times per day. Right. So they have a slightly worse truth record, but it's not often truth to be, evil. It's often truth to make, for strategic reasons. Why would I tell the person they have a bad shirt? Because maybe I will need their assistance in 2 weeks' time. And in 2 weeks, they might still be angry that I told them their shirt was bad. Right. So whereas narrow cheek person,
actually, and I find that happens a lot. I think is it that falls within our cultural aspect as Kenyans or as East Africans, because
exactly.
we
That's why
tend to
totally, Damaris, you're right. So the willingness of a culture to be truth telling is highly dependent on culture. That's why some of the research is very difficult. Right. So if you go to some of these Nordic countries, like in Northern Europe, like Sweden, Norway, Finland, Denmark, they really value truth. And if any of you've worked with these people, it's kind of abrasive, right? You can walk into your office and all of a sudden, oh, why are you wearing those clothes? Why? And it's like, what the hell's wrong with my clothes? Where in Kenya, people are much more polite. Right. In Kenya, we're a much more polite society and so forth. So if people, before we tell a bad truth, maybe about someone's clothes, we're going to be nice about it. We're going to say, it's great to have you on the team. You've been with us for a long time. Hey, I have an idea about how you can be better. Right. Maybe wear, white shirts instead of, I don't know, I just bought this shirt last week. I don't know what this is, like red and blue little check marks on it. Okay. Oh, sorry. the background, the USIU background is blocking the green screen anyway. So anyway, so there is a cultural dimension, but still we would tell our truth through the cultural lens, whether we say it politely or more abrasively, like in Nordic countries, or perhaps like in Japan. In Japan, there's Japanese words for having a public face and a private face. So you show your public face at work and you show your private face at home, and that's very rooted in the culture. So much less truth telling in the office and so forth. So you're right, there is a cultural dimension, but the human brain strongly prefers to follow honest leaders, right? Strongly prefers to follow honest leaders. So
wow, we thank God we have you. From a scientific perspective, a lot of things are like making a lot of sense, or even we do them, we don't even know why we do them, but they affect us in different ways, like you're demonstrating. Again, we are quick in judging some things, we don't know why we do that. But I think from where you're talking from your point of view, I hope all of us are making sense on that. Incidentally, actually what Scott is talking about is interesting, because like when it comes to the physical, you as a person physically, and being the biasness of people actually thinking whether you can lead them or not, it's very interesting. We had a number of facials and all of us voted the same person. I don't know how we did that, and it's not us, like the team I had, but many other people just votes like that. So it's an interesting thing actually to look into. So we see other aspects that we could actually be affecting our executive persons, and that is good. I would come back to you on something in line with that, Scott, but let me bring in Frida, because we know sometimes confidence, like has been spoken from Scott and as well from Frida, is something that is very critical when it comes to showing up and speaking or owning the room, like we like calling it. How can we not now differentiate that we really have the confidence of the right measures, or because overconfidence, like you spoke about, it can be really a negative? How do we build balance between confidence over confidence? Just read everything right, Frida.
Thank you very much, Damaris, and thank you, Scott Bedlow, for that very insightful session. And indeed, we get a lot of. How long was I muted? My news just turned on.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. I think I'm back on now. So I was saying thank you to Scott. That was very insightful. And now I know that in Kenya, I need to be more humorous than strict. So I need to drop my British side and pick up my Kenyan side. So when we talk about confidence, ask me that question again, Damaris. So I narrow it. It's something on confidence. Ask me again.
If we have overconfidence, definitely we'll get it. We'll not get it clearly. But how do I know? Because lack of it, again, like it's been said, confidence is a critical, thing that we need to master for us to come alive in the space. But again, if I have overconfidence of it, most likely, the room will sense it and we'll lose it. So how do we balance that?
Now, first, confidence is a perception. On the outside, it's a perception. When you show up, you're greeting people, you're smiling, you're walking around the room, you have created a perception of confidence. But normally people who are doing that have another little voice in their head. We all tend to have that voice, and if you don't have that, it's all right. But what happens is there's a voice in our head that tells us the people in the room are bigger than you. And that voice, if we listen to that voice, then we start acting small. And as we act small in our mind, it tends to come out in our body language, even without us knowing it. So we need to be very conscious about the inner voice. Because the inner voice, you have the critic and you have the coach. And to enhance your coach voice, to silence the critic voice, and the critic voice is always telling you all the things you don't know how to do, the mistakes you have made, it amplifies that. So you need to build up your coaching voice. You need to take an assessment. I like that Scott talked about assessments. So there are assessments you can take. At Passion Profit, we use the SKIN assessment. And the SKIN assessment stands for skills, knowledge, education, experience, exposure, and your networks. I have found that when people take this assessment, it builds them up. because many times we are comparing ourselves to others, and comparison is the best way to narrow your confidence. Because when you start looking at others, you have a tendency of looking at what they're doing well. Why should you compare yourself to others? When you're showing up, you should show up with the value you are going to contribute, aware that the people on the table have diverse value. If that is English, they have there's multiple value represented at the table, but you want to know what is your one value. I'll give you an example. When I lived in the US, I learned a lot of this in the US, so you'll keep hearing me referring to that. So when I went to the US, I was cocky. I was cocky because I was rich. I was very, very rich. That's a story for another day. So number one, don't be cocky. Number two, I don't know how you'll know whether you'll know. Now I know looking back. Number two, there was an opportunity that came in a university. This university a university in the US. I don't have any degree. I was not interested in getting a degree. I was interested in helping those people who don't want degrees but need to continue their education get supported. So I went to this school and I gave them a concept note on how to do continuing education. And it didn't have that time. And when I did the continuing education, because I felt that I did not like, in Kenya, going to school is a headache. People cram, I don't know, you don't sleep, you put your feet in water. For me, school was a nightmare and I was not going to go through it. So even today, my friends were in school, they're like, oh, I have exams. Oh, I don't know what. I'm like, what are they doing to people in this school? So I was like, you know what, me, I'm not cut out for that. So I'm going to find another way, because education is important, but it needs to be education that can solve problems of humanity. If it is just a pretty paper hanging on the wall and the initials behind my name, I am not interested. No, I'm not interested. So when I went into this school, they accepted my concept note. I was called for a meeting to defend it, and we went. In the room the day of defending my concept note, everybody around me was a PhD. And they were all, my God, were they cocky or were they cocky? But
there must have some
wanted.
HRs, definitely HRs on the table. We love papers, by the way.
Imagine I don't even remember who they are, and I don't care, because I was very focused on what was taking me there. In life, Damaris, you must learn to focus on your assignment and not the attitude of people. If you don't want to get derailed, attitude of people looking down on you, that you are black, white, or brown, you have an accent, so you start shrinking in your confidence. No. I sat at the table, and as we were waiting for the dean that was going to interview us, they were going around the table and everybody was saying, I'm a Dr. So-and-so, I have PhD in so-and-so, and I don't know what. Then it reached me. I said, I have no PhD. I'm here to defend my concept note for continuing education for those people who are not interested in initials after their names. So that was that. And I got the job. So why did I get the job? I got the job because I knew who I am. I knew who I am and what I was bringing, but I was also aware where I was. The value that education was bringing at that university was valuable for the people it was doing, but I was here to create a new stream of revenue for the organization. I was like, when it comes to doing this PhD, BA, MA, you are doing well, but there's that person who will not be able to get in through those channels and still needs education. How can we help them? That is the person I am here for. The rest is history.
Awesome. I like that. It's so candid. You can actually feel and touch it.
Very sandpaper.
Very sandpaper. There is no sugar coating. We love the honesty that comes.
I don't have any sugar. I only have sand.
You completely converted the sugar to sand. That's really impressive. Thanks very much, Frida.
Thank you.
It comes actually very, very candid, and I hope you're all learning. Yes, I going by the chat, I think people are actually learning. So thanks for that. I actually have picked two major things. Be aware and know your why you're there, and just forget about the show that's happening around you and go for it. That's it. And I think that's real measure of confidence. Self-awareness gives you the confidence, not overconfidence. And then being aware means you focus. So thanks very much. Muthangani, I want to bring you on board because I know as much as we want to differentiate on how we can tell whether we have it or we don't have it. We are always on tables where we are evaluating people on many things, including on roles, on bids, and many other things. And you, one person I know, shows up in most of those tables. Kindly tell us, what are some of the things definitely you have seen and most people are not conscious about most times? And I think you speak to our culture, you speak to our country more so, that we need to be now awake about. Yes, Muya, you're there. Come on board.
Okay. I guess you're talking about in terms of leadership and executive presence, and greeting
Exactly.
days. All right, okay. As just building up on where the Professor Scott and Frida has said, is sometimes we are not actually very confident about ourselves because we tend to rely on those other senior people or the so-called those who know. So you are here and you're not aware that I am the expert, I'm the accountant. I mean, you give me a job and I have to do it, and because I have the competencies. So you should be relying on me. So we tend to present things like to please the other party or to be in line with them. Take the case of HR, is that you have the knowledge, you have the skills about the labor laws, the best practice of HR, but here you are faced with a situation which is not proper. Maybe the ones is when we are told, get rid of Damaris. And you say, what has Damaris done? And then you discover whatever the reason you're being given does not meet the threshold of the proper process of termination. So what do? You are the one who knows what the process is and how it should be done properly. So be aware, I am the expert here. I am the go-to person. And I have the ability and knowledge to advise management.
Sorry about that.
You have that skills. Whatever it is that you do, you're the accountant, you're the production manager, you are the sales, business development. Just enter that room and make your presentation with the knowledge that it is you they're relying on. And the most important is to recognize that you can make a mistake, you can be wrong. Most of us dread again when you're told, oh, what kind of presentation is that? So how do you respond to that? You say, oh, I'm sorry. Or you just say, why are you apologizing? You just say, sorry. You just say this, at this moment, I thought this was the best thing. Throw it back to them in confidence. Know that you have a right to be wrong, to make a mistake. So the ability to be aware that you are there by your own right is very, very critical. Two, you must be aware that the other party has got a perception about you which could be wrong, factual, or biased. The minute you differentiate that and you understand, oh, they're only saying that to upset me. So you must also be able to understand the personality of the other people, including yours. What are the traits? The traits that Scott was trying to enumerate, and probably there are many others which I'm sure he will share later. Is what? How do I respond? Do I shrink when I'm told, oh, that's wrong? 1 + 2 is not 3. You said 4. Say, oh, how do you say immediately? Oh, let me correct that immediately. What does that? You accept it, not start defending it, not giving excuses. What I've noted in our context, we are very good at giving excuses and focusing more on the negative rather than the going forward. Asking a simple question, how would you have liked me to prepare the report? In other words, you're saying, I did it my way. Please give me your way, because maybe it's your boss. Then you say, but sir, madam, according to APCD, this is the correct way. So start by your truth, start by your professionalism, and what I think Scott said about integrity. Because sometimes we keep on not doing the right thing to please. So get out the fear from you. Sit in that table make your presentation. It can be actually be torn apart. And now you will say, I will go and incorporate what you have said in confidence. So, but other people say, I'll never again. And this is why we are given a task and say, no, please give it to Frida. Give it to Frida. And what does that happen? Nobody is going to come back to ask you to prepare a proposal. Because anytime you are given a segment or responsibility, because of your shrinking, you keep on putting it. No. Why don't you try? I think so-and-so, I think Damaris can do better. Try Professor Scotty. In fact, he's an expert. And you keep on moving. So to create that confidence is go in with utmost faith that what we are doing is correct. It could be trashed, it could be wrong, it could have mistakes, and it is okay to make mistakes. I don't know, that one factor, it is easier. All these things we read, learn, theories, is when we come to experience them. And anybody in this group can tell us, you are told, oh, go into confidence. But how do you create confidence? Then me, I'm telling you, speak out. Okay?
And fear nothing.
Fear nothing. They will, because that is your learning point. So for any manager who is here or any person upcoming, when you give your answer, give it like it's all you had. Then if it is for one reason, you're told, let me give the one of Frida, your handshake is weak. What? Some of us start questioning, what do you mean it is weak? How is it supposed to be? Then you start questioning. No, you say, well, what does that mean? It means, you look at what is behind that sentence. So you don't have to actually break my fingers, or you're told it should be warm. You say, how should I do it? That is how that inquiring mind comes in. Be inquisitive, ask what next? How best can I do it? How well is it? How should it be done? Then you learn from the process. So confidence is actually speaking out. How many of us can tell somebody, I'm sorry, your shirt button is not buttoned? And it's your boss. He will not hate you or she will not hate you. She actually or he will appreciate you. But most of us say, this is the boss, I can't. I remember a situation one time, somebody was talking about telling the king his naked story in a training. Yet their trial was open. And it was only during coffee time, somebody actually had the courage to tell them, your trouser fry is open. So you see, we are very good at telling people things, but practice. I hope somebody just raised their hand and says, excuse me, you're fried. And what we do, we just go down there, pull it up, and we continue signaling. So this is what we're talking about. Be true to yourself, and actually you realize what you are fearing doesn't come to be.
That's very true, Mathangani. Thanks very much. Being truthful to yourself. And I think sometimes it's because of doubt, because when we doubt our capacity, capability, our abilities, again, of being able to bring the best on the table, then I think we've given permission to what, that other voice that I think Frida was referring to take over. And once that guy takes over, my goodness, you lose on the table. From my own experience, you lose on the table, you lose control of everything. And then the person who was evaluating you gets a feeling that you do not qualify actually to be on that, whatever it is. So you lose like that. So it's important to actually realize, for you to be on that table, there are definitely some things that actually you qualify and you own. And therefore, when you show up, you also understand people are anticipating to learn and get to know what it is that you, of course, have, and how they can benefit from it. And then you show on the table about that, because I think that is owning the room. And thanks, Mathangani, for that. I know we will get to a practical way of looking into. Yes, go ahead.
Can I just add one thing? I really loved what Mathangani shared. And just to add one thing, I find that our conditioning, especially back at home, our conditioning, we have been conditioned, we go to school, get good grades. So this conditioning of being number one, getting A in class. So when we go to the workplace, if we don't get an A, or if we don't get the, well done, good job, then we quickly get offended, or we want to defend it. So when we come to the workplace, we must transcend this kind of thinking. And how do we do that? We must assess. I really can't overemphasize the part of assessing who are you, what is your value beyond that degree, beyond those papers, what is the value you have, so that when you show up, you're able to say, okay, I did it this way, somebody else may not like it, it's all right. So it doesn't mean that if you don't like my way, I'll never ever do it. So you become more accommodative to different kinds of perceptions, different kind of opinions without losing yours. Back to you, Damaris.
That's very true. That's very true. It doesn't mean that because you're not accepted, you have the worst strategy. Probably it could be actually them. Sometimes I tell myself, you know, you will still realize I got the value a century later. So thanks for adding that, Frida. And I want to bring Scott again on board because you're the expert in this perspective of management, Scott. Why is it important, or why is executive presence important, especially for anybody leading people? And as you bring those ideas, because I know you got that in very well crafted scientifically, also tell us or demonstrate using any case scenarios, because I know you are so current. You can pull one for us that has actually happened to just demonstrate why it is important for every manager or every leader to have executive presence.
Sure, because your presence is what portrays those 4 leadership traits, right? You know, and again, those 4 leadership traits: inspiring, right? Honesty, you know, forward-looking, and competence. So your presence is what communicates that, whether you're communicating it through your tone of voice, your body language, or, you know, your words. You have to communicate that. And before I get into that a little bit, I want to pick up on something that Mathangani said about fear, because a lot of leaders, especially new leaders, and there's research that shows new leaders for the first 3 years of their leadership overreact dramatically, and you know, will be very tough on their employees, very critical, but also have a lot of fear because they're thinking they're being constantly judged. And there's also research that shows that when people, like a lot of times people think, or how about this, most people think that they're being judged far more than people actually are, right? So if you walk down a hallway and you trip a little bit on your shoe or something, you know, some people will be overcome with dread and, oh gosh, everyone saw me do that, make that mistake. But in reality, right, 95% of people's attention is really not on you. People are actually mostly focused on themselves and worrying about how they're doing in the workplace. They're not so concerned with other people, right? So people have this fear of judgment and fear of being watched and fear, and it's not based in science, right? Most people don't care. When we do surveys, you know, of groups of employees and how many of them notice something in another employee, dramatically, like very few ever notice anything about their colleagues, right? They're not looking for that critique, right? They're worried about themselves. Most people are worried about themselves, not other people. Right. So I think that fear, just like Mathangani said, right, we need to put fear out of our minds in terms of being leaders. And that's number one. Number two, there's also this scientific effect called the recency effect, where people remember the most recent interaction with you more than an interaction with you a few minutes ago, or a few hours ago, or a few days ago. Right? So there's the primacy effect. They remember their first interaction with you. So you should take care to do very well in that first interaction. And then the most recent interaction. And you see, when I used to do TV before I had all this cancer surgery, and it makes it harder for me to do TV these days. But like, if you look on NTV's website and with Nation TV, you know, that one time I remember shrubbing on television on AM Live. And I was like, oh my gosh. You know, but I knew the science. So I got, you know, I kind of paused. I got into a power pose, and we'll talk about those in a few minutes, the power poses. But, you know, and then I just went very good tone of voice right on to the next topic. And it's funny, like people were commenting online, oh, he shrubbed. And then immediately they went on to something else. And it's funny, it's still on the Nation Media's Facebook pages, right? But, you know, and people forgot about it. right? So we don't have to fear, making mistakes or making errors, or, because people are not going to remember it. They're going to focus on the most recent interaction, right? And they're more worried about themselves more than you. So I completely endorse what Mathangani said. So that was very good to the coach. That was good. That was good insight there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Right. But if we go deeper into those 4 traits, right, we've already talked through in detail the inspiration one. We've also talked about the honesty one, right? But then if we also get into the others, and Martin asked about, am I saying them in the right order of importance? And I am. Those 4, the way I put them in the Zoom chat, the way I'm saying them, I'm going from the most important to the least important. But all of those combined make over 90% of the human perception about someone's leadership, right? So, I'm leaving out, the other 10 that are like 0.01 or 0.02% effect, because why worry about that, right? So anyway, so if we move on, right, if we move on to forward looking, and this is something that Kenyans are very good at, right? In Kenya, we're very good at building, people's vision and trying to get people in an organization to be on the same page in terms of vision. In Kenya, we care very much about strategic planning. We care very much about visioning exercises and coming up with a shared mission and vision and all these things. And you see in other organizations, in other countries, they are much more top down in this approach. And oftentimes the junior staff don't even know what the vision is, and they don't even know what the goals are of the organization. In Kenya, we're much better at it. Okay, but it doesn't mean that we should not also do better, right? Getting people on the same page, it's very important. Okay, and in Kenya, we're already pretty good at the forward-looking part. Okay, now number 4 with competence. Now this is one where someone like me who has wide cheeks and a rounder face, this is where I can make up for the wide cheek thing. In other words, the problem with people's perception about my honesty, right? And just the physical aspect of, of honesty, right? So in competence, right, it's strange. What physical traits do you all think impact people's perceptions about your honesty? Excuse me, not honesty, about your competence, right? What do you think affects it? Okay, what physical traits? We talked about honesty and cheeks, cheek width, right? What about the competence? What do you think? Let me look in the Zoom chat here. Oh, no one is saying anything. We'll give you a second. No pressure. And Damaris, you can't, I've already told you this, and you've already read the literature on this. Lily, yeah, posture, totally, Lily, 100%. There's more. Yeah.
There's, I think, your tone of voice.
Exactly. Faith is saying communication, which is correct if you look at the tone of voice of communication, which is what Damaris said, right? But what else? There are other things that affect it. There's 2 other big things. We'll wait a second. Just a second. Knowledge, not so much, sadly. Eye contact. Certain cultures value eye contact a lot, like Americans value it a lot, but it's not a intrinsic thing that people crave. Posture, yes, we said that one, absolutely. Articulation, no, not so much. It's more the tone rather than articulation. Let's see here. Poise. Yeah, poise in terms of posture and tone combined. Body movement. Ooh, Jacinta, that's interesting. Body movement. Can I just jump on that really quickly? It's not among the biggest, but it is something important. I don't have a pen here. Oh my, sorry, my briefcase is on the other table over here. Now, if I think everyone, let's try to pretend that with our hands, because we're talking about the movement, all right, the movement, that body movement that Jacinta just said, right? So if you, in your hand, you need to pretend that you have like, oops, sorry, the green screen is blocking the, look, my hand disappears on the green screen. There we go. I have the USIU background. Okay, anyway, so let me put it back. So if pretend you have a nail or a bolt or a screw in your wrist, Okay, so when you move your hand in professional settings, make sure you don't bend your wrist with it. So if you're pointing, don't point like over there. Don't try not to point with one finger, right? So when you move your hands, it's like you should move it like full body, full, look, it's disappearing here. I'll put my hand back here. All right, in full movement extensions. Here, let me move this back. Okay, so it's like moving your hand in full motion, right? From one side. If you're going to point to something over here, you want to move your hand in full extension, right? And use, 3 fingers or 4 fingers to point. Don't bend your wrist, because let me pull the computer back now. Oops. Subconsciously, people view wrist bending as weakness, right? So that's interesting that you got, Jacinta, you got that correct on body movement. Okay, but the other aspect is tall. Oddly, the human brain thinks that tall people are much more competent than short people. Isn't that bizarre? It's really bizarre. It's really unfortunate, right? That tall people are heavily biased. Tall people are hired at a faster rate. They are promoted faster. They make more money over their lifetime than shorter people. And of course, there's no correlation between height and brain power. Zero. But it's sad because the brain is biased, right? Now, why is the brain biased towards tall people? Now, keep in mind, this modern society where and you're right, heels, I know it's strange, but heels actually work to change people's perception of height. I know it's so ridiculous. It should not matter, okay? But it does. Yes, it applies to both genders. You're right. Or however many genders there are now. I'm so confused, but it applies to every gender, right? You're absolutely right. Okay, but height, why is that though? Remember, modern society where brain power is really valued is a relatively new concept, right? It's what, a few hundred years old, maybe 1,000 years old, right? So Pauline, body size, yeah, not so much body size, thank God, because I'm a fat guy. but body muscle, shoulder size, Pauline, you're correct. Not tumbo, not stomach, but yeah, shoulders, Pauline, you're 100% right. And it's unfortunate. So why? Because in ancient times, right, before there was agriculture, when we were hunter-gatherers as humans, right, spread across the world, okay, with humans, right, who could defend the family group, the clan? And science shows that, ancient societies were never more than like 120 people, 130 people, because then you maximize the hunter-gatherer resources. That's why your brain can only remember about 130 names, right? And when you get to know more people's names, you kind of forget them in a short period of time, right? Because the brain is only built, for that large of a society. Okay, so in those type of societies in ancient times, hunter-gatherer times, oh, Faith, I have talked to Ndegwa about this. Ndegwa, Faith, yeah, we've talked about this, right? But there's other techniques, right, that you can use, and we'll get to that in a second, Faith. You're totally right. Okay, anyway, so with this height aspect, who can defend you better, right? Against lions, right? Lions are charging. Maybe you've put some of those thorn bushes around the boma, around the homes. Maybe you have, 20, 15 bomas in there, and you put those thorn bushes around the compound. But lions are coming, lions used to be many more than they are now. And you reach your hand with an ancient, handmade spear through the thorn bushes, to get the lion before it can get in and get your family. It's tall people. Tall people have longer arms, right? So the human brain developed in the subconscious a strong bias to thinking that tall people are more competent because they can defend the clan, defend the family. Okay, which is really sad in the modern time because it has no correlation to success in the modern world. But our brains have not caught up with modernity. Our brains, our subconscious brains, our unconscious brains are still stuck in the past. It'll take, thousands of generations for them to catch up, right? Because that's how biology works. Anyway, so we have this bias towards tall people, sadly. Okay, but there's another bias. Okay, now, Damaris, don't say it, right? I'm going to put it on the screen. If you'll give me 1 second to pull it up here. And Damaris, you know where I'm going with this, I think. Just a minute. I'm just pulling. Sorry, my computer's
Oh.
freezing a little bit. I'm going to put something on the screen and I'm going to have you guys vote on something. And Damaris, you can't say anything because you know what it is. All right. So
I
if you look
already.
Sorry?
Go ahead, Prof.
No, Damaris, I know you know this. We've talked about it with a different in different county forums. I think we did in Mombasa and stuff. Okay, so if you look on your screen, okay, hopefully I'm sharing my screen and you guys
we can see it.
Yeah, there are two twins on the screen. Okay, these guys are identical twins. So they're almost the same, right? But not exactly the same. Okay, because identical twins are almost the same. Okay, so which twin do you think would make a better leader? All right, the guy on the left or the guy on the right? Which would make a better leader? Oops, sorry, I have all these pop-ups here. This guy on the right or the guy on the left? Who do you think makes a better leader? So go ahead and put your answers into the Zoom chat. The guy on the right, you can't say any of them. You have to make a decision. The guy on the left or the guy on the right? Everyone put we're about even. People right, left. Who would make a better leader? Right, guy on the right. Someone saying left, guy on the right, left. So right is slightly winning. Yeah, the guy on the right looks less stoic. The right, the guy is the same. No, Beatrice, you have to make a decision. The guy on the right. Okay, so the guy on the right looks like he's winning about 65% of the vote here. Frida says the guy on the left. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit of the weirdness about it. Okay, why did those of you say who chose the guy on the right? Why did you choose the guy on the right? You can use your microphone if you want to. Lillian says he looks more approachable. Ruth says thicker lips. Irene says looks more warm. Long face, wider lip, looks more receptive and approachable. Slimmer cheeks. All right. Flora has actually is the only one who got it right. Okay, now, of course, I lied, and some of you picked up on it. The actual person, okay, is the same. Okay, it's actually the same person. So you're right. It's the same exact human, right? All the psychologists and the researchers did was kind of shrink the lips, made them a little more narrow with the guy on the left, and elongate the lips a little bit for the guy on the right. So they just did some digital altering. The eyes, the cheeks, the forehead, everything else is exactly the same, right? But the human brain is more likely to choose the guy on the right. Now, not everyone chooses the guy on the right, but in a group setting, because there's 99 of us in here, 100% of the time, the majority of a group across every culture in the world, they always choose the guy on the right. Okay, and it's because of what she said. It's the lips, the wider lips. Humans were strongly programmed, psychologically, right, to choose people, leaders, and prefer leaders who have wider lips, which is very bizarre, right? I mean, it's weird. Why would we want that? And the reason, okay, now the reason has to do with ancient times and all these things. But let me tell you, in the United States, the Senate candidate, in the US, they have a Senate, just like we in Kenya have a Senate, right? The Senate candidate who has the widest lips wins re-election or wins elections 96% of the time. The widest lip candidate wins 96% of the time, right? In promotions, if you're tall and you have wide lips, you got the job. You can even shrub in the interview. You got the job. Okay? It's a big issue, right? And people in Hollywood know this, and people who, do product placements and brand ambassadors know this, and lots of plastic surgery to make, cheeks narrower and lips wider. And it's really bizarre. And then of course, sometimes they're botched surgeries, and you see this, you see these funny examples of people with lips like this after they've gone through bad surgery, right? But
it's
anyway,
very interesting, Scott, actually. we actually listening to you and you're like, yeah, this happens all the time. But what do we do to compensate for that? And before we jump into that, Kellen Jeru, please mute yourself. Kellen Jeru, kindly when you're mute, please stay mute because we're meeting some people and they're unmuting. Kellen, go ahead, mute yourself. And we will come back to you so you guide us on some of the things that we can do so we can compensate for that, because some people are very, stable, starting with myself in comparison to the law of gravity. And we think we're proud of that, but what do we do? Because these brain biases always are happening all the time. So we do not get to miss out even as we build, because we're here to learn how to build our executive presence. And I want to shift this to a different, I know 22 minutes still yet, not to 30, half or half past, to understand now, after we've understood this scope of many aspects that actually attributes to executive presence or lack of it, how can we build one? Are there some steps? Are there some insights that we can actually practically apply for us to actually say, we have it? To a certain extent, we are winning on the tables because we have it. It's a critical skill besides all other leadership skills, because we get evaluated on it all the time, consciously or unconsciously, as we've heard from Scott and Frida and Mathangani. So as we learn about this holistically, consciously and unconsciously, how do we begin to build it? And what steps can we follow practically? Because it's about practical approach to skills to do that. And I want to bring Frida Owinga to give us some insights on building executive presence. And I will bring you Mathangani on board still to add that. So Frida, you can come on board, come in through. We're listening with our pens. Have we lost her? Maybe as I look for Frida to bring us on speed on that, Mathangani, you can maybe bring the preamble on that, as I see where Frida's gone.
Okay, thank you very much, Damaris. I think that is now the flesh that will shape us, the bones that will be able to make us stand tall and be fair present. There are many perspectives we can start doing that. Some of the things what Scott has been talking about. And I like his approach, like when we said we are bombarded with a lot of how-tos, how to grow rich, and the person telling you how to grow rich is also borrowing money from you. So that's, it's just, you keep on wondering, all these how-tos, how come we are so many? Most of us are into a lot of motivational books, and they are wonderful. They are philosophical. Some of us are into spiritual matters, and we have got excellent examples. So what is it that holds us actually from making that executive presence? And when we speak about executive presence, we are not talking that everybody must be, can I say you are a manager, you're top, you're moving on. No, it's wherever you are, whatever level you are, you should be able to create that presence, whatever you do. So let's first of all separate the two, that we are not talking that for you to create presence, you must be on a higher level or position. It is whatever you do. You are a teacher, you are a lecturer, you are a trainer, you are an accountant, you are a business development, salesperson, whatever it is. So some of the things that we can start is, first of all, what we said, self-awareness, understand yourself. I'll be very honest, it took me so long even to understand my traits. Occasionally, of course, they're thrown to you, but what do? We actually react. Why did you tell me that? You don't listen. You say, who? And again, it starts now from the main reason to now the what's and hows and why again is me. So the first thing is always to be conscious that anytime something is said about you, sit back and reflect. How has it manifested? Is there a grain of truth in that? They told me I don't listen. What does that mean? I thought I did. Then you said, oh, I've noted I'm this type of person. When people are, somebody is explaining something to me, I don't give them time. I am a directive person. I keep on giving. It's okay. So I wanted to find out. Just go and do it. Please go to so and so. Damaris will sort you out. I've already spoken to her. You have not even heard what I wanted to say, what my problem was, what my issue was. So that reflection of self, and it comes at all our stages in life and interactions. It could be at your social level, at your family level, at your colleagues' work. The minute they tell you something, be honest and say, would you like to explain to me about that? I would like to understand what else I can do about it. Or why did you tell me that? How does it manifest? So start understanding yourself. That's the first thing. And I still go back. Never take what you are told to be negative, even when it is almost negative, because sometimes the truth comes out like actually an affront on you, because you have also upset me. I'll tell you. And it happens, go to a petrol station, go to the supermarket. There are people who talk very nicely to these cashiers. Other people come there with their positions. You know, so self-awareness is very important. That one is critical thinking. How much do you put into thinking through something and the various options available before you present something? Because you'll be challenged, you'll be asked many questions, but have you thought about it? Some of us are process thinkers. You have to start thinking process-wise. You have to start like a designer, and you also have to be philosophical in certain things, because not everything is linear. So critical thinking is important because it gives you a chance to look at the various options that are available to you and say, this is my best option. Even if it doesn't work, I did my best. So when a senior comes to you and you say, I'd looked at various options, 1, 2, 3, and I'm narrowing down to one, and you say, I would like to have your view about it. They will see you have done something and you're thinking, rather than being the one who takes problem all the time, because that's what we do. We go extracting and placing problems to our colleagues. We burden them. I would like that by tomorrow morning. What Scott said, if we are not very confident, we use intimidation, power. You know, I'm the new supervisor, correct this. But how do you create that? It's actually by eliciting, using what I would call purposeful, progressive questioning. Damaris, I have this. We have a meeting tomorrow at 10. I am busy. How do you propose we meet this deadline? That in itself is what you're calling, you're involving the other person and you're inspiring them and you're creating actually what we said, confidence. The presence we are talking about is you allowing me. Instead of telling me 10 o'clock, I don't want anything. You know how Kenya, we say, sitaki maneno kesho. By 8 o'clock, that report should be on my desk. So, but when you involve others, people start seeing you as a more trustworthy, dependable, reliable, and a person who is more understanding. And that's what they said. How do you create that issue of being honest? If you know it cannot be done and you're pushing me too much, you're not being honest. And you know, that's how managers sometimes we do. I don't care. Yeah, I want it tomorrow morning. Then somebody will simply ask a question. Sir, did you know that this was needed tomorrow morning? There was a board meeting. And the argument starts. So why are you questioning me? I have a board meeting. So to create that presence is a level of involvement. The other one is simply communication. Are you clear? Because that is what also inspires. Some of us give instructions. It's not quite clear. Not once. And I learned my hard way. I used to be somewhere on the 3rd floor and a boss of mine, somewhere on 6th floor. A call comes, I climb the stairs, I go there, he talks, then I come down, I was new. Then I wonder, what exactly did they say? What do they want? I'm scared, I call the secretary, I tell them, they say, you come talk to him. So one time I went, I asked him, please, can you repeat? I said, I have noted you don't come to meetings with a paper or and a pen. Next time, and wherever you go, carry a pen and a notebook, and learn to seek clarification. So when I'm talking about communication, is the ability to questions. Never fear. I'm sorry, I did not understand. That's creating confidence in yourself. Could you kindly repeat what you just said? Have I understood this is what you mean? Can I note that this is what you're expecting of me? So that ability, and we go back to critical thinking, to the ability to be true to yourself. I didn't understand what Frida is talking about. And then I leave my discussion we have after 20 minutes, then I'm lost. So that ability to be true to yourself and be confident that it is not wrong to say, I didn't understand. Doesn't mean you're dumb or you're incompetent. It simply means, sorry, it's not clear what the issue is or what I'm supposed to do or that concept. So there are many factors that you can look. I would like to stop there because the rest I'm sure we'll be able to share more. Thank you.
Thanks very, very much, Mathangani. I think what I like about the conversation you're having is just brought it down to our working desk or interactions with our supervisors, interaction in groups, and how this manifests, you know, these tiny little things that we do, but they still this power that we need to have for us to communicate authentically and get the things that we need to get. So we felt through those nitty-gritty things that you've highlighted. You know, you reminded me of a CEO of one of the multinationals I worked with. I think it was 2015. And every time we went into a room, by the time he gets to finish his speech, he used to know the people he'll allow to speak to him. And when I asked him, how do you know that? Because he just used to point people randomly and ask, give them permission to ask questions, irrespective of hundreds of people lifting their hands. He told me 5 things that I've never forgotten. And number 1 was when they enter in the room, they communicate with authority. That puzzled me because I used to think communication is until you start your presentation. And welcome, guy. They already have communicated in the first moment they entered the room. And that gave me like a wake-up call. The second one is, and it asks something I think Frida said and Scott has said, the way they walk into the room. The way you just walk into the room sort of exudes some sense of trust that they might say something that is of value. And now he will mark if you walked in that way that used to define that. Is that trust? I came to realize that later, and it stuck to this conversation. We're talking about the posture and the poise, the way you put your face, the way you project your eyes, your neck, all that. It's interesting. It's part of our presence. And the fourth one is he told me some guys work some sense of polished self-image, whatever that means. I came to realize it's actually the confidence that boosts your self-awareness about who you are and the value you carry around the room. So you will actually walk into a different style than someone who is doubtful about their value, about the value or self-image. And the last one is something I still continue to discover. It's about loudness of your identity. There are people who will walk into your meeting and without saying anything, you will feel the identity consumes the room. So I think these are sort of the things that in a nutshell, we all look for. You do not know how to define it like myself, but you will spot it in the room. So Frida, I thought we had lost you, but we thank God you're back. How do we build all these things? Clearly, because we really need to know how to do that. Welcome.
Thank you so much. This has been a fantastic conversation. And I've enjoyed listening to everybody. All the insights are amazing. I want to keep it as simple and practical as possible, so I've been thinking. And I'm big on mantras. And mantras are what I say to myself so that I build myself up. Some people call them affirmations. So whatever it is that you call it, you need to have a way to silence the critic and amplify the coach in your life. You need to find a way. So I'll share with you the way I have found. The way I have found, I have coaches, but I'm also a very spiritual person. And a spiritual person, I read my Bible and I believe what it says. So that aside, in case you don't read the Bible, your conditioning can make or break you. and where you need to be self-aware of where is your conditioning coming from, your paradigm, okay, your mindset, what the things that you believe, where are they coming from? Normally, they're coming from what was modeled for you when you're growing up, and what was modeled for us when we're growing up could be in our homes and could be in schools. And a lot of us at home here in Kenya, we are conditioned by this academia paper thing, which is okay. But we need to find a way to separate ourselves from our papers and articulate who we are as people, as a human being. Who am I? What do I love and enjoy? Who cares about the value that I have? All right. Articulate that so well that you know where you are needed. Because before you do that, you continuously compare yourself with others. You continuously get offended when you're corrected. You continuously feel judged. There's a new thing I hear young people say nowadays when you're correcting them or giving them feedback. Oh, I'm feeling judged. I'm feeling attacked. Because we have a generation who, and those are my children, all right? I'm 56. So we brought up our children telling them, very well done, you are great. Whether they have done well or they have not done well, we have brought them up telling them they're good, they're great. So when they go to the workplace or on social media and they're told differently, they get into mental illness. It becomes a problem. So we need to correct that from home, from work, from home, from school, and at work. Number one. Number two, I learned something from my coach. And most of you will probably have heard of him, Jack Canfield. I've gone through Jack Canfield's programs. I've even gone to his program in Phoenix, Arizona, because I love the way he teaches. And Jack said one thing that changed my mind forever. No matter what anybody says or does to me, I am a valuable person. So once you have articulated your value, the rest becomes opinions of others, not in a cocky way. I give you an example. One time I was serving in the church, and I was serving in the church as the administrator of the church, and I often make fun and say, if you're an administrator in the church, you're the one who does everything nobody else wants to do. And people say, I know there'll always be that kind of person who will tell you what people are saying behind your back. Learn to listen to both the good and the bad and the ugly about yourself. And then look in the mirror and ask, are they saying the truth? Is it really true? Or ask them. So somebody came and told me, Frida, do you know people think you're very proud? Even on social media, somebody said that I should get off my high horse. So I was like, I don't even have a horse. Show me where the horse is. Anyway, so I asked the person, why do you think they're saying I'm proud? And she said, you don't smile, you don't greet, you just come and go to work, paper pusher. So what did I do? I didn't start defending myself. I'm not those smiley people. You know, I'm busy. I don't greet people. No, I said, that is all. She said, yes. From the very day, anybody who passed through my office, hi, how are you doing? How is your family? And I became the best administrator on that side of Sahara, on that side of the world. So let us be conscious of our conditioning. Let us be conscious of the results we want to achieve. And let us learn to be effective more than right. Because when I'm right, what I've noticed in Africa, when I'm right, I'm not always right in America. So where are you? What do you need to be effective in Africa? What do you need to be effective in America? I'm just coming from Cape Town. I was with all our African presidents in Cape Town for masterclass and the AFCFTA Business Forum. I'm getting ready to go to Washington, D.C. So I'm washing my brain because all the things they enjoyed in Africa, I'm called president. People almost bow down for me. In America, they call me Frida, and I'm their colleague. It's a very different vibe. But none of it makes me less or more because I know who I am as Frida. That's all. And no matter what you say or do to me, the value I bring on the table is my leadership skills that I have garnered over the years through reading, through learning, through engaging, and through giving feedback and receiving feedback. So when it comes to that little voice in your head, I encourage you to coach yourself to silence the critic and amplify the coach. Because you can do, have anything you set your mind to. It's the people you listen to and the little voice in your head that can stop you. Don't allow it. Back to you, Damaris.
Oh, thanks very much. That's so real and powerful. I love the way you infuse your practical, experiences into this. Very candid.
Thank you.
So we appreciate that. We're getting the learning through. Ladies and gentlemen, are you learning? Let me know from the chat.
So.
What have you picked so far? Because this is getting, I actually had no idea it's 11:42. It feels like we've just started. like my friends here are telling me, this is getting hotter and hotter the minute as it ticks. So what have you learned so far? Tell us from the chat. We'll appreciate that. And do you connect with it?
Yes.
What have you picked so far that you feel is going to make a big difference in the way you show up in the spaces you do? And because I asked a question in many platforms, whether you have ever walked out of a meeting and you felt like you thought you actually spoke well, but you felt like they didn't actually hear me. And a lot of people actually agree. Most of the time, we feel like people are not listening to us. And I hope you're picking something that's going to turn that kind of experience from now moving forward, because there's so much we're learning from this. Tell us what that you're learning. And I'm going to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, drop any question that you have in the chat. So we are moving into the section where we'll be answering directly your questions. And I want to bring Scott on board, because I want something like practical, and I know you must have one that can demonstrate a leadership gone wrong because of these traits you're talking about. And feel free, you can share a case study right away here that we can relate with and practically see how this plays out in the workspace.
Right. Thank you, Damaris. Yeah, so with the so getting practical, I've gotten a few emails from some of you in the last 10 minutes and a lot of direct Zoom chats asking me if you need plastic surgery to elongate your lips. No, you don't know that. You don't need that, but you do need to be aware of what the unconscious bias is going to be of people around you, right? Now, there's a way to combat that practically. Okay, the most important thing, right? There are three aspects to what people's opinions of you come from, especially in those first few meetings of you, right? And I'll try to push this laptop back a little bit so you can see more of me, because I'm going to demonstrate a few things here. Okay, so Damaris, can you all still hear me? The laptop's quite a ways away now. Excellent. Okay, so the three ways people are going to get those traits about you. Remember, inspiration, honesty, forward-looking, and competency, right? The way people are going to get those about you, okay, is through your words, your tone of voice, and your body posture, right? Those are the three. That's how you're going to communicate it. All right? So, which one do you think is the most important? Words, tone of voice, or body posture? Any ideas? Let me look at the Zoom chat. Sorry?
I would put body posture first.
Right, you put body posture. Thank you, Damaris.
I would say
says words. Martin says tone.
Body posture.
I hear someone say body posture. Another person saying tone of voice, body posture, tone, body posture. Yes, sadly, and this is sad for me as an academic, right? Because the words we say only comprises 7% of what people think of us in those first few meetings. Then what am I doing? Why did I go get a doctorate if people aren't going to listen to my words, right? It's like I wasted my money and my time. All right. So yeah, words are important. Thoughts are important, but only 7%. Okay, now the next big portion, what does it come from? Body posture or tone of voice? Body posture. You guys were right. Most of you were right. Body posture. Body posture is 55%, okay, of what people think about you when they first interact with you those first few times. And then the remaining tone of voice is like, I think 38% or something. So let me just really quickly, I think Damaris with Blue Concepts and USIU, we could do a whole session on just body posture alone. That's fun, and make you all turn on your webcams, and I show you everything. But essentially, the two big pieces, right? I already talked about how to you do body movements with your hands. Don't bend the wrists and don't point. It's full body extensions. But in terms of body posture, right? Just the basics, and then we can practice on another session. Okay. The first one being shoulders. Okay. Now with shoulders, you don't want to roll forward. Here, I'll try to sit. People who sit forward, okay, people are going to discount them as not competent, right? Among the big four, number 4 is competency. If you're sitting with your shoulders rolled forward, people are going to think that you're not competent. Also, if your shoulders are not flat like this, if they're too much like this on the sides, down on the sides, they will think you're not competent. You want to roll them back and have them look like they're straight across. I know that sounds stupid, but it's huge. It's huge. Okay. And there's ancient reasons why the brain thinks that. We can get into that another day. Okay. So you want to sit or stand with these straight shoulders. Okay. That's number 1. Number 2, your elbows. Okay. Never have, let me try to move this down a little bit. You can see my fat tumbo. All right. So never have your elbows against your body in any professional setting. You do not seem competent to people, right? Do not sit like this. Or stand, always push your elbows out a little bit. The process of pushing your elbows out, whether you're standing, whether you're seated like this or whatever. I mean, do not fly. You're not dege. You're not a bird, right? Right? You want to push your elbows out a little bit. Okay. That is going to change people's perception. You flatten your shoulders and you push your elbows out. This body posture trick is going to make people think you're the smartest one in the room, the most competent, and portraying leadership. And it makes up for those of us who are short, like me, round faces, like me, wide cheeks, like me, small lips, like me, but I can dominate a room because I know how to do body posture. Okay, and that has the biggest effect. So you need to keep this in your arsenal of tools to portray your, leadership. Okay, and we can practice. There's different poses you can do and power poses you can do, whether you're standing or seated or whatever. We can practice that on another time. But anyway, but those are the big secrets. Okay, and number 2 is the tone of voice, right? So that body posture, 55%, the tone of voice, roughly, I think, is 38%. So tone of voice, here's the trick. If you're talking, all right, and you're going along and you go up at the end of a statement, very bad. It shows that you're not confident in people's subconscious. If you're always going up, Damaris, what do you think we should do? I don't know, Damaris, this is USIU, all these things, it's going up at the end of a statement. People will subconsciously think you do not know what you're talking about, you're not confident, you're not smart, and therefore you are not competent. The trick, okay, and I used to have to practice this when the research first came out, okay? Now, I just fool everybody because no one knows I'm really trying very hard. All right. So what you want to do is keep your tone of voice flat or keep your tone of voice going down at the end of a statement, right? It doesn't matter the sentence. It's more the statement before you take a breath because we're talking verbal here. Okay. So if you're talking, and yes, USIU and Blue Concepts have had a partnership for several years. That's better. It's flat. You see the tone is flat. You can change volume, do everything, but the tone, keep it flat. It's better than saying, Blue Concepts and USIU Africa have had a partnership for many years. The first one builds confidence in your competence. The second one does not. But the best one of all is to go down at the end of a statement. We are here today for Blue Concepts. If you go down at the end of a statement, it builds the most confidence. Oops, sorry, I hear some people not muting. Let me go on and mute Juliet here. There you go. You're muted. Okay. Anyway, so that tone of voice thing is a really, really important. And so remember when I said I made that one shrub on NTV a number of years ago, and I kind of collected myself. I knew the science that people wouldn't remember it if I kept going with confidence. But I also made sure my tone of voice was right. Got in my power pose, put my elbows out, my shoulders back on TV, and kept going, and no one remembered the shrub. Okay, but if I would have been, seated badly, my tone of voice badly, I think it would have gone worse. It would have gone. Sorry, Thomas's mic is on. Let me mute you. Okay. Anyway, so that's the big thing. So remember the 4 traits. Number 1, you remember them? Should we turn on our microphones and say them together? Yeah, let's turn on our microphones. Let's say them together. Let's see if we can remember them. The 4 leadership traits that are key to your presence. Number 1.
Body.
1, 2, 3. Inspiring.
Body. Inspiring.
Excellent.
Honesty.
Number 2.
Honesty.
Number 4.
Competency.
Competence. You guys got it. Excellent. Good job, everyone. Now make sure you don't tell your colleagues, because you don't want them to know why all of a sudden they think you're an amazing leader. Woo! Oh my gosh, they're amazing. Don't tell them you now know the secret to their psychology in terms of leadership presence. And how do you communicate that? You communicate that through words. We know that, right? Tone of voice, but also the most important, body posture.
Good.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Scott. I think you're bringing this down in a great way and in a practical manner, that these things we just, we don't know. We think we know things, but what? I think you change the way we perceive management completely. It's such an honor to have you here. And I just applaud this panel today. It's been amazing. And the lessons are immense going by the chat. It's interesting because we're still here. Some few minutes to noon, guys, after a holiday. So this is good. People think they're learning, and I cannot move a bit. Please put your question there. We still have 7 minutes for you to answer any query or clarification that you need to have from the panel. But allow me to bring on board Evans, because Evans Gumbe is one of the professors who's done amazing things. Evans is my height, by the way. Not that we need to put on high heels. Evans, how do you do that? How have you managed to do that? Introduce yourself a bit, because your profile is quite a big. If you haven't dropped, please come through.
I'm still here. Thank you very much. Damaris, can you hear me?
I can't see you. I want to see you.
Right. Can anybody see me?
Okay, let me change something just right here. Evans. Good. I've spotted you. Well,
right.
Oh, there
sorry.
you are.
Yes, I'm in my kitchen, so I hope you won't mind. Thanks so much for inviting me. Damaris, yeah, my name is Evans. I live and work in 2 universities in North Germany. I teach business, and I'm so thrilled to be here today. I've learned so much. Yes, I moved to Germany 8 years ago, but I've worked in different countries within Europe. I was in the UK for about 10 years as well. And yeah, I've worked in Poland and Czech Republic. So yes, I'm really happy to be here. It's been a fight, and I agree with all the speakers, moderators today, Scott, Frida, as well as the Matangani.
Yes.
Yes, a difficult name indeed, but I've learned so much. You guys have a wealth of experience, and yeah, I'm quite a lucky guy today. Yeah,
let me just throw a quick one to you, Evans, because it's great to have you here today. You have managed to build such a huge brand in those, European countries, as you mentioned, within a very short time. Your articles, your scripts has won huge recognitions around that side. And going by what we're hearing here, there's some biases that obviously, like Damaris is short, even more conscious about it. You are my height and you're doing great things. How did you do that?
Thank you. It's not been easy, because on top of the stuff my wonderful colleagues have talked about today, I have had to deal with the race issue as well. So I'm Black, and a Black man in Germany is not seen as a teacher to start with. There are a lot of misconceptions about like Black people, what we can do or what we cannot do. and having this Kenyan background, you know, a lot of people from Kenya are runners. So we do marathon, we do rugby. So when I first walk into my first lecture in Germany, my students thought I was coming to clean the room. So I asked the students to leave the room, and they were like, "No, it's not yet time for cleaning." And I said, I'm here to teach today. Today I'm not cleaning, but I've been cleaning before. So I think one of the things I'm still working on is to try and rebrand myself each and every time, because I didn't have this confidence. You know, in Kenya, when I was in Kenya, I didn't realize I was Black. I didn't realize like Frida said, in Kenya, I was thriving. I was a high school teacher. I was winning all these certificates. I was in drama. I was in music. And I was having the best time of my life. People were like calling me those big names. So when I went to the UK, I became that small. And I thought, wow, there's so much I haven't learned in this world. Do I go back to Kenya? No. So it's been a journey. So like the body language, all these elements, you know, I had to learn German language from scratch. So it took me about 6 months to learn. I was doing like 5 hours in school and 5 hours at home. So literally 10 hours, because I teach in German at the moment. And so, you know, it's a journey. So every time you have to kind of scan the room and do different things and be very flexible and open to leading teams. And we're here. So I always attend sessions like this because there's always something to take home with me. And, you know, it's a lifelong process. So learning never stops. Thank you.
Learning never stops. I like the way you've ended it, Evans. It's such a pleasure to have you today. I actually saw your name. I was like, is that the gentleman I know? But it's really good. We're looking forward for partnerships with you.
Pleasure.
I'm intrigued by what you've been actually able to do. So thanks very much. Good to have you here and for the input as well. So thanks, ladies and gentlemen. I was waiting for something like a question from the chat, but I can see all of you are so, excited. You've learned so much. Scott, I have no idea what that means. Okay.
No, I was responding to Evans's German.
Yes.
But I
that
just
sounds
used
like
Google
German,
Translate to test him if he knows German. I have no idea what that means.
Oh my goodness. I only know Guten Tag. I can say that at this moment. So good. It's someone calling me my name, Damaris. Who is that?
Damaris, this is Floyd. I just want to make a comment.
Oh, Floyd. Floyd. Okay,
Floyd Matthias.
Come through. Okay. Yes, Matthias, come through.
Thank you. I just want to, first of all, appreciate the panelists for the good work. I think
I can see you, Floyd. And Floyd, where are you? I want to spotlight you.
Sorry, I'm in my car, so.
No worries, just go ahead. You can introduce yourself. You, Floyd, you are here. This place has many people.
Okay, my name is Floyd. I head commercial banking in one of the financial institutions around. And I wanted just to make a comment, and at the same time pose a question. For Scott, thank you so much for that, because I've been struggling actually. And when you hear such a kind of information flowing into me at a day such as this, is quite instrumental. So Scott, thank you so much. Thank you to the other panelists. It was quite profound in terms of how you articulated yourself on different aspects of leadership, and thank you so much. My question is about the presentations. I know this may be off, but is it possible to get the presentation or rather something writing by the panelists, just to make sure that reading, as Professor Ngumbi puts it, it's a continuous process. Actually, I was struggling and listening on the highway and all that, and I missed quite some details, and that's why that would also help. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Floyd. I'm so excited that you actually were here following through. Sure, absolutely. You do not even need to get the presentation. We are actually live. We are live on the Facebook page. If you want to go back there and revisit the conversation anytime of the day, just log in there. If you cannot trace the page, just let me know, or just drop your email, or just let us know through the chat. We'll be able to help you to get to it, so you can go through every bit of the discussion that we have had in this last 2 hours. So I'm going to ask the panelists at this point, before I get to your parting shots, that if you don't mind, you can leave your contacts, because I can see people are asking, how can I get to Frida? How can I get to Scott and Mathangani? Just if you can just drop a contact there. So if they need a direct conversation with you, they can engage you for different things, because I'm telling you, each of these people are powerhouses. They have immense experience and knowledge that you can tap in different ways, and you can grow immensely in these areas. And I want to shift to just closing or bringing this to a close. And I want to bring one person.
Sorry, I think Damarice's video has stopped. Can anyone else hear her? Or is it just me?
I can't hear her.
I can't hear her. Yeah, I think she's frozen.
So while we wait for her video to let's be honest, Safaricom Home Fiber sometimes goes down. So while we wait for that to come back up, right? Frida, there was a question in here for you by Lydia. And Lydia is asking you, Frida, she said, what can you say about our physical appearance, dressing code, and how do they contribute to our executive presence? So we'll do the parting shot for you, Frida. You have your parting shot. And if you can incorporate that solution into your parting shot, Lydia would be thankful.
All righty. Thank you very much, Scott. And I hope you can hear me clearly. I have two devices because one just shuts down like Safaricom. Can I just make sure you can hear me? A thumbs up?
We can hear you.
Well, Safaricom's better than the alternatives. I mean, let's be honest.
Okay, I won't get into that argument. You can see me, you can hear me. I am happy. So Lydia, dress code. What I've realized about dress code, it varies. And I'm becoming more liberal now in allowing, in giving classic responses. The first thing I'd like to say is that you are addressed how you dress. So you need to be aware of where you are going. I like using examples because it makes it practical. For instance, I was in the AFC-FTA Business Forum. So that is a business forum for business leaders. So what the dress code to dress African was acceptable, was even very exciting. And for ladies, I find that sometimes ladies, when we go into leadership spaces, we wear trousers. And there's nothing wrong with wearing trousers. I personally recommend wearing dresses because there's something about being a girl in that room that women are trying to shy away from and look like men. So that is a personal, I don't have data for that, so Scott, don't call me out on it. That is my personal preference. It has worked for me. I'm 56 years old. I've been a cocky girl, and today I'm the head of an international organization. Secondly is ladies. I've found that when you show more skin, you are less respected. But some people tell me because I'm an old woman, that's why I don't show skin. You see how I'm dressed, but this dress, I can remove my jacket if I'm speaking and it gets hot. Now I find ladies like thinner and they show more skin. I'm not a trendy person, so I can't comment too much on that. But I believe that when you show more skin, you are less respected. Why do I say that? Men try to get dates with you. Men try to take you out. So you have to be conscious. What do you want when you're going into that room? Because some ladies tell me I'm beautiful and brains, and every time men see me, they want to take me out. Then I say, can you send me pictures how you dress when you go for the meetings? And I tell them, these dresses making the men look for you. So you can be respectful without looking old and dodgy. You can choose a style that works for you. You can work with a personal what? A personal brand specialist. If you contact me, I can suggest a number for you. So I'm not an expert in that area, but what I do say as a woman, the more skin you show, the less you're respected. The tighter your clothes, the less you're respected. When you wear heels, you get the job. I think that is the height thing that Scott told us. So I wear flat shoes when I'm speaking, but when I'm going for a serious meeting, I wear heels. All right. So, because when I'm speaking, I need to be comfortable. The other thing I've noticed is when you have makeup, you get the job. When you have makeup, you get the job. So you don't have to overdo it. Like right now, I have makeup, you may not notice it, but it's just one of the leading personal brand people in this country, Derek, I forget his last name. I'm sure you all know Derek. He once came for the IHRM masterclass. He also recommends makeup, and he does have statistics why women who wear makeup get the job done. So be comfortable, wear clothes that, Derek Banger, correct. Wear clothes that fit you properly. Don't wear new shoes because you get uncomfortable. If you look in the mirror and you're asking yourself, is it tight? It is tight, change it. But that's an old woman's perspective. The men in the group can let us know what they think. That is not my area of specialty. My area of specialty, I'm a coach. And in coaching, I help people to understand who they are, how they can perform at their peak, and how they can produce results that matter anywhere they are, across geographies and across sectors. I'm a learning and leadership solutions coach. So I design learning solutions. Some of you probably know me from IHRM. We designed the Transcend program. We can design programs based on your needs. So we are not taking something that is already canned. So I'm sorry, I can't answer that question better than that. My parting shot, no matter what people say or do to you, you are valuable. So articulate your value. If you like, you can email me. I'll give you the skin test. It gives you loads of confidence, but it also helps you to understand who you are, the value you bring to the table, and how you can contribute in solving the problems of humanity. Thank you very much, Damaris, for having me here. Scott, I give it back to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Frida. And there's some science that supports what Frida just said about makeup. Now, in 20 seconds, here's the weird part of it. Humans are biased against people who have wide skin pores and are pro-biased towards people with small skin pores. So if makeup, when using makeup, if ladies, if you can make it so that you doesn't show wide skin pores and kind of cover your pores, people are going to be more pro-biased for you. Now, men,
that's what it does.
Suffer through it. Exactly. So we just suffer through it, men, because culturally it's not okay for us to wear makeup, thank God, right? But in South Korea, men are almost expected to wear makeup, the biggest men's makeup market in the world, and it's this facial, I don't know what this stuff is called, the foundation, is that what it's called, Frida? I don't know. But anyway, so it's
foundation. You got it right.
Okay, because I don't know. I'm a big old ugly man. I don't know how to do makeup. I don't know, right?
Scott, allow me. Please stop talking so badly about yourself. It's not, half the things you have said about yourself are not true, neither are they nice. No. Back to you.
I'm comfortable with myself. That's my brand.
All right, good people.
I believe you are.
10 minutes past time. So I think we can proceed with the closing remarks. And I think, Scott, you can now do it. Thank you for taking the leadership. You can do your closing remarks so that we do not take more time as we had anticipated. Proceed, then I will close.
Sure. And John, I agree with you in the comments. Not too much makeup. It's just the pores issue scientifically. All right. So thank you all. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you to Damaris and her team. At USIU Africa, we care about, sharing knowledge and so forth. And, that's the core of our mission, education to take you places. So we appreciate the chance to be here. And you can reach me, Scott@scottprofessor.com. I've put it into the Zoom chat here. but it's scott@scottprofessor.com. If you want some of the articles I've written on these different topics where I kind of consolidate the science around leadership and presence, organizational behavior, and these type of things, you can look on the Business Daily's website. That's www.businessdailyafrica.com, and you can search by my name and whichever topic you want. Or, you know, there's over 500 articles there that I've written that you can kind of filter through and go from there. So thank you all. Have a great Saturday afternoon. And I know I'm going to go go to the gym, which is a struggle for me. So it's more fun being with you in the morning than the gym in the afternoon. All right. Thanks, you guys. Over to Matangani.
Thank you very much. Thank you for a wonderful presentation, and Professor Scott. Mine is just tell people, one, all these things that we're speaking about is a question of practice. You must practice them. You must go out of your way to practice them. Go beyond what we are reading in the books. In regard to the executive presence itself, I think it is so important that we be aware, like what Frida has said. Just check around your room where you go, especially in the workplace. How are you dressed compared to when we spoke about the pose, that body pose, it is so strong because if you're always looking the hunched type, if you're looking the one that you lie back, I don't know what they call it, you slouch or all that, you create actually a wrong image about yourself. And that is why sometimes we are told, it's like you don't look presentable, yet you have done the bit. For men, that one clean shirt and one well-fitting jacket, it says a lot about you in a meeting, rather than when you go and you think you are Zuckerberg and you're using Steve Jobs and you have to have this one t-shirt you keep on coming. Please do not compare yourselves. These are some of the things we tell people. Yes, that was Steve Jobs with his gray or whatever color of his t-shirt. Then you assume you're working for Google. No, if you're not in Google, please don't go with jeans. Culture, perception are very strong and they are inherent in us. Don't be lied by people by saying, oh, yes, at .com, I'm this and this. No, if you are working in an institution that respects or has got greater value on presentation, if you are a professor like Scott, yes, you can go with a cape to the class because it's allowed in the sector, maybe. But I'm sure when he's going for another mission somewhere, that's the only time you see him in that one suit and fine jacket and fine tie. So what Frida said, know where you are going. What are the people you're going to find there? Finally, openness. Believe in yourself. It is not easy, but what holds you back? Somebody asked, what is that inner voice that holds you back? It is simply the fear of reprimand, or being thought not to fit in, or being thought that you are wrong. The minute you're told you're wrong in a meeting, what most of us, we say, I'll never ask a question again. But for heaven's sake, you have got so many years and hours around in this earth. If you say, oh, anytime I open my mouth, no, keep on saying something. One day, you'll discover actually nobody cares. They were just talking, they were expressing themselves because they are assertive. So bring me to the point of assertive skills. Say what you want, how you want it, and ask the other person's opinion. And with that, I would like to close this forum and thank everyone for turning up. Keep watching the space, we'll give you much more. Now you can all unmute and say bye. We wish you a wonderful weekend. Wherever you are, where I am, I can see it's getting a little bit cold, but the sun will shine one day, 1 hour this weekend for you. But let it rain, we need it to rain. Bye-bye. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye,
everyone. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Nice
Thank you so
weekend.
much.
Bye, everyone. Nice weekend.
Bye. See you.